Okay, so for what we have in the remaining problem in number 21 from the previous handout set, okay, we have problems that revolve about conditional probability as well as probability concerning Ford Explorers that were manufactured either in Detroit, Michigan or Lexington, Kentucky. And we had the models broken down okay, with the following table. And it says here that if one of the Ford Explorers is randomly test driven, and L is the event that the Explorer was made in Lexington, and E is the event that it has an Eddie Bauer signature, it says to determine each of the following probabilities. Now, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do a little switch around with the numbers. Okay, now we have for the Eddie Bauer signature, okay, that is going to be at E. No Eddie Bauer signature, okay, that is going to be at E prime, or it could be the E with a bar over it. And it says here that L is the event that the Explorer was made in Lexington. Okay, so that would be L, and you have L prime would be in reference to Detroit. And what I'm going to do is I like to keep my events, okay, like in the case of like E and L, okay, I like to keep these lined up where they intersect at the very top. And so I'm going to do a little switch around with the rows. In other words, have Detroit at the bottom, Lexington at the top. And so for the rewrite on this one, okay, we have okay, and again, just switching the numbers around. Okay, still keep the same column for Eddie Bauer as well as no Eddie Bauer signature. And then we have just put Lexington L at the top, Detroit L prime at the bottom. Okay, so we have for these numbers, okay, for Lexington Eddie Bauer signature, we have 35. Detroit Eddie Bauer signature, we have at 37. And then we have for Lexington without an Eddie Bauer signature, we have at 76. And then we have Detroit and missing an Eddie Bauer signature, we have at 102. And if you take the numbers as they are, okay, for the number of vehicles manufactured in Lexington, okay, we'll have at 111. For those manufactured in Detroit, okay, we're going to have at 139. And then for the Explorers with the Eddie Bauer signature, we have at 72. Without, we have at 178. So we have, taking the numbers, okay, we have a total of 250 Explorers that were test driven. Okay. Now for what we have in the case of part A, okay, we're looking at the probability that the Explorer was manufactured in Lexington. So for what we have in terms of the setup, okay, we have probability that the vehicle was manufactured in Lexington, P of L, okay, that is going to be out of the 250 Explorers in total. So you have for P of L, number of Lexington Ford Explorers, we have at 111. Okay, and so for this ratio, we have 111 out of 250. And so if you were to express as a decimal, okay, this comes out to 44.4%. And as for what we have in the case of part B, okay, you're looking at E prime, or it could be E with a bar over it, and that will be those Ford Explorers without an Eddie Bauer signature. Okay, and so for those Explorers without an Eddie Bauer signature, 76 made in Lexington, 102 in Detroit. So you have a total of 178 Explorers test driven without the Eddie Bauer signature. And so for the probability that if the Explorer chosen at random is without an Eddie Bauer signature, okay, we have for the probability, have 178 out of 250, and this will go to 71.2%. Now, in the case of what we have for part C, okay, we have for the Explorers, okay, that were made in Lexington and with an Eddie Bauer signature. Again, the intersection symbol is for and. In other words, have both characteristics. Okay, so for L and E, okay, we're going to have in this one, okay, we have 35 such signatures. And so for what we have present, Okay, so we have 35 such signatures, and for what we have, in this case, we have 35 out of 250. Okay, and so for the number here for 35 out of 250, okay, this will end up at 14%. Now, in the case of what we have for the crossover, okay, for the probability that, okay, we have given that the Explorer has an Eddie Bauer signature, we're looking at the probability that the Explorer was made in Lexington. So for this conditional probability portion, okay, we have probability, okay, that for the Explorer, already given that it has an Eddie Bauer signature, that it was also made in Lexington. For the conditional probability, you're looking at the probability where you have both characteristics, you have manufactured in Lexington and also containing an Eddie Bauer signature, relative to the probability that the Explorer does have an Eddie Bauer signature. And again, we have for both characteristics, we have at 35. And then for the Explorers that have an Eddie Bauer signature, we have 72 in all. And so for the numbers we have present, we are looking at 35 out of 72. And so for the outcome in this one, if you were to express as a decimal, the fraction will be fine. And this would come out to about 0.486. Okay. Now, in the case of what we have for part E, okay, we have the probability that the Explorer was made in Detroit is indicated by the L prime, or in general that the Ford Explorer has an Eddie Bauer signature. Okay, and so with the union symbol, this is for the OR situation, and with this type of operative, we are looking at the addition method. And so for what we have in the case of this setup, okay, we have for part E. So we have the probability that the Explorer was made in Detroit or has an Eddie Bauer signature. And so with the addition method, you have the probability that the Explorer was made in Detroit, P of L prime. Then you have plus the probability that the Explorer has an Eddie Bauer signature. And then we have minus the probability of both characteristics, namely where we have both made in Detroit and consisting of an Eddie Bauer signature. Okay, so for the numbers that we have here, okay, for the number of Explorers that were made in Detroit, you have at 139, and we have for the number of Explorers with an Eddie Bauer signature, we have at 72, and then for the number of those that are both made in Detroit and that, okay, in this particular case, have an Eddie Bauer signature, we have at 37. So for the numbers that we're going to have here, okay, so we have for P of L prime, we have 139 out of 250. Okay, and then we have the Eddie Bauer signature, we have 72 out of 250. And then we have for both characteristics, okay, made in Detroit, Eddie Bauer signature, again we have 37 out of 250. Okay, and so for this we have, see, this would be 211 minus 37, so we have 174 out of 250. And if you were to express as a decimal value, okay, this one, okay, comes out almost to 70%. Now, and what we have regarding the remaining portion, okay, we have in part F, okay, going back to the conditional probability, okay, we have the probability that if it is given that the Explorer has an Eddie Bauer signature, okay, we're looking at the probability that it was also manufactured in Detroit. So with the conditional probability, again, you're looking at, we have both made in Detroit and with an Eddie Bauer signature, relative to the probability that the Explorer in general consists of an Eddie Bauer signature. And so for the numbers that we have present, again, we have for the probability that is made in Detroit and with an Eddie Bauer signature, Okay, this will be at 37 out of 250. And once again, the number of explorers with an Eddie Bauer signature we have at 72. So the probability is going to be 72 out of 250. And for the final result in this one, okay, just a little reminder, if you divide by a fraction, you're looking at multiplying by the reciprocal. So again, you're going to have what were the denominators in the original fractions to cancel out. And so you are down to 37 out of 72. And for the result here, okay, this can be the exact probability number. And if you were to approximate in decimal terms, okay, this comes out to about a 0.514.